The rain had been falling since morning, streaking the windows of St. Helena Academy with slow-moving trails that blurred the outside world into gray smudges. Inside Classroom 3B, the students were restless, not because of the weather, but because of the project that had just been announced. Mr. Dalton stood at the front of the room, adjusting his glasses as he spoke, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. "For your final project," he said, pacing slowly, "I want each group to demonstrate what you believe is the most dangerous game." A murmur rippled through the class. Dangerous game? That wasn't the usual kind of assignment. Mr. Dalton was known for pushing boundaries, a teacher who believed that learning came from discomfort. Still, the phrase dangerous game carried a weight that unsettled everyone. He continued, "I don't mean danger in the sense of getting hurt. I mean the kind of danger that reveals who we really are, the choices people make when the stakes are high, when fear takes over. That's the kind of game I want to see you explore." Students exchanged looks. Some smirked. Others frowned in confusion. Phones buzzed quietly under desks as messages flew back and forth. "He's serious? What are we supposed to do? Play tag with knives?" At the back of the room, Ethan sat silently. He was the type who didn't need attention to be noticed. Pale, sharp-featured, and unreadable, he kept his eyes on the desk, tapping his pen rhythmically as if he were counting seconds no one else could hear. "Groups of 5, Mr. Dalton announced, clapping his hands once. "You'll have 1 week. No real harm, no illegal acts, just a demonstration that makes us think about danger, trust, and consequence." The bell rang, but no one moved right away. The idea of danger had planted itself in the air like static electricity, invisible but heavy. By lunch, the classroom buzzed with energy. Each group was forming its own interpretation of danger. Ryan and Ava, always the thrill seekers, were sketching out ideas involving dares and blindfolds. Lily, who preferred rules and safety, rolled her eyes. "He said no one gets hurt," she reminded them. "Yeah, but it has to be dangerous," Ryan said with a grin. "Maybe we could fake a haunted house scene or something. Fear is dangerous, right?" Ava leaned back, tossing her hair. "Too typical. We need something that shocks. Something people won't forget." That was when Ethan spoke for the first time. "What about Russian Roulette?" The table fell silent. Ryan chuckled awkwardly. "Dude, that's insane." Ethan interrupted, his voice calm, unbothered. "That's the point. It's the most dangerous game ever invented. 1 bullet, 1 chamber, 6 people, 1 pull the trigger. Pure chance." Ava's smile faltered. "You're not serious." Ethan tilted his head slightly. "Why not? It's the perfect symbol of danger. You said we need something unforgettable." Lily's face paled. "That's not a game, that's suicide." He looked at her, eyes glinting with something unreadable. "Only if you lose." They laughed it off at first, assuming it was Ethan's twisted sense of humor. But he didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. He just sat there, watching them, as if measuring who would flinch first. That afternoon, Mr. Dalton checked in with each group, offering advice and making sure no one was taking danger too literally. When he reached Ethan's table, the atmosphere shifted. The other students were suddenly quiet, unsure whether to mention the gun idea. Ethan looked up at the teacher, his tone perfectly composed. "We're thinking of exploring risk and mortality," he said. "How people react when they believe their life is in danger. It's about psychology, not violence." Mr. Dalton raised an eyebrow. "As long as it stays that way. Psychological. No actual weapons, Ethan." "Of course," Ethan replied smoothly. "It'll be a simulation. I promise." The teacher nodded and moved on, satisfied. But as he walked away, Lily whispered, "You promise?" Ethan's eyes didn't leave the teacher's, retreating back. "People don't understand what they fear until they face it. That's all this is." By the end of the week, everyone in school was buzzing about the project presentations. Rumors spread fast. That one group was doing an illusion with fire. Another was creating a digital horror experience. But the one everyone talked about was Ethan's. Ryan tried to convince himself it was all an act. He's just trying to freak people out. Probably a toy gun or something. Still, when they gathered their materials that Friday afternoon, no one could ignore the strange look in Ethan's eyes, a quiet certainty, as though he already knew what would happen. "After school," he said softly. "The old drama hall. It's private. Perfect for our presentation." Ava hesitated. "You sure we can go in there? It's been locked for years." Ethan smiled for the first time. "I have a key." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Even the teachers noticed the distracted glances, the whispered conversations. Mr. Dalton, uneasy, caught Ethan staring out the window during last period, lost in thought. Something about the boy's stillness bothered him. It wasn't focus. It was calculation. When the final bell rang, rain began again, harder this time. The campus emptied, except for 5 silhouettes moving toward the abandoned building behind the gym. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old wood. The stage curtains were torn. The floorboards creaked with every step. A single table stood under the hanging lights, and on it, something wrapped in cloth. Ava frowned. "What's that?" Ethan walked forward and placed his hand on the cloth. "Our project." He pulled it away, revealing a revolver. The metal glinted under the dim light. "Real. Cold. Heavy." Ryan froze. "That's not fake, is it?" Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he turned the cylinder slowly, the chambers clicking like a heartbeat. "One bullet," he murmured. 5 empty chambers. One chance to feel what real danger means. Lily backed away. "Ethan, this isn't funny." "It's not supposed to be," he said. His voice was calm, almost attached. "Mr. Dalton said to show a dangerous game, not talk about it. This is what danger looks like." Ryan's voice cracked. "You're crazy." "Maybe," Ethan said, slipping the bullet into the chamber and spinning it. "But you'll remember this lesson forever." The sound of gun clicking echoed in the empty hall, sharp and final. Outside, thunder rolled through the sky, as if the world itself were warning them. The group stared at Ethan, frozen between fear and fascination. None of them moved. None of them ran. Something about his calmness rooted them in place. He lifted the gun, pointing at his own head, eyes never leaving theirs. "This is what it means to risk everything," he whispered. "To prove you're alive." The hammer clicked. Empty. No shot. He lowered the gun slowly, a faint smile curving his lips. "Now," he said softly, "who's next?" And in that instant, the air in the hall grew heavy, not just with fear, but with realization. This wasn't a project anymore. This was the beginning of the game. The silence after the click was unbearable. For a long moment, no one moved. Ethan's arm hung loosely at his side, the revolver glimmering in his hand like something alive. The others stared, breath caught between disbelief and horror. Ryan was the first to speak, his voice cracking. "You're insane, man. What the hell was that?" Ethan didn't look at him. He simply placed the gun gently on the table and spun it so that the barrel faced no one in particular. "That," he said quietly, "was the sound of truth. Now you all know what it feels like to stand one heartbeat away from death." Lily's eyes were wide, her voice trembling. "This isn't a lesson, Ethan. It's psychotic." But Ethan only smiled, the kind of smile that didn't belong on a student's face. Calm, sure, too certain. "It's only dangerous," he said, "if someone pulls the trigger again." The words seemed to hang in the air, thick and poisonous. Ava laughed nervously. "You're bluffing. There's no bullet in there." Ethan looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You saw me load it." Ryan stepped closer, peering at the gun as if he could see through the metal. "Let's just go, okay? This is messed up." Ethan's hand shot out, gripping Ryan's wrist, not hard, but firmly enough to make him freeze. "You were all excited about danger an hour ago. Don't back out now." Ava's defiance faltered. She looked from Ethan to the gun, then to the others. Something in his tone made it impossible to tell whether this was a performance or something much worse. "Fine," she said finally, her voice unsteady. "If it's a game, then I'll play." Ethan nodded approvingly, almost like a teacher praising a brave student. He picked up the revolver, spun the cylinder once more, and handed it to her. The metal felt heavy in her hands, heavier than she expected, as though it carried every fear in the room. She raised it shakily, pointed at the ceiling, and pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. A breath of laughter escaped her lips, a mix of relief and disbelief. See? Empty. Happy now? But Ethan only shook his head. We're not done. He reached out and spun the cylinder again. The feint were echoing through the empty hall. The gun came to rest in front of Ryan. Your turn, he said softly. Ryan stepped back. Hell no. You said you wanted to prove you're not afraid. Ryan swallowed hard. His pulse thudded in his throat. That was before you brought a real gun. Ethan's eyes flicked to the others. Lily frozen, Ava pale, silent. Then back to Ryan. Fear exposes truth, he said. Don't you want to know who you really are? The line was delivered so calmly that it almost sounded rehearsed, like a philosophy lecture wrapped in menace. Reluctantly, Ryan took the gun. His hand shook so badly the barrel wavered. The metallic scent of oil and gunpowder filled his nose. Don't do it, Lily whispered. Please, let's just leave. But Ryan couldn't, whether it was pride, adrenaline, or Ethan's invisible pressure. He lifted the gun and pulled the trigger. Click. Another empty chamber. Ava exhaled shakily, trying to laugh again but failing. Ethan nodded, taking the weapon back. 2 pulls. Still alive. The odds are getting lower. He placed the revolver on the table again, spinning it once more. The cylinder's motion hypnotized them. The faint clatter like a clock, counting down to something inevitable. Lily suddenly pushed her chair back. I'm done. This isn't a game. I'm going to tell Mr. Dalton. Ethan looked up slowly. Do you think he'll believe you? His voice was calm, but a look in his eyes made her stop in her tracks. What do you mean? He told us to explore danger, to feel it. I'm just doing what he asked. That's not what he meant, she shouted. Ethan shrugged. Maybe not, but isn't that the point? To see how far people will go before they break. For a moment, no one spoke. Outside, thunder rolled again, shaking the old windows. Then a creak. Everyone turned as the door at the far end of the hall slowly opened. Mr. Dalton stepped inside, his expression puzzled. What's going on here? Ava nearly cried with relief. Sir, he's got a gun. Dalton's face went pale. Ethan, put that down. Right now. Ethan smiled faintly. Relax, sir. It's just a game. Games don't have bullets, the teacher said sharply, stepping forward. You're scaring people. Fear is educational, Ethan murmured. You said so yourself. Enough. Dalton snapped, his voice echoing. Everyone out, now. But no one moved. They were frozen, not by Dalton's authority, but by the quiet, eerie certainty in Ethan's face. Go ahead, Ethan said softly, eyes still locked on the teacher. Leave. But you'll never forget that you walked away from the truth. Dalton hesitated, torn between anger and fear. He'd seen troubled students before, but not like this. Not one who looked at life and death as though they were 2 sides of a coin he could flip at will. Ethan, he said quietly, try and steady his voice. You don't understand what you're doing. Ethan's lips curved faintly. I understand perfectly. He lifted the revolver again, pressed it against his temple, and pulled the trigger. Click. Empty again. The sound made Lily scream. Dalton rushed forward, grabbing Ethan's arm, but Ethan twisted free with surprising strength, stepping back just out of reach. Stop. Dalton shouted. Give me the gun. But Ethan only smiled. You can't stop the lesson, sir. You started it. What? You wanted us to show what danger does to people. Look at them. He gestured toward the trembling students. They've never been more alive. Dalton's voice softened, almost pleading. Ethan, no one's learning anything. They're terrified. This isn't education, it's trauma. Trauma, Ethan repeated thoughtfully, lowering the gun. Maybe that's the purest form of learning. He spun the cylinder again. The software sounded almost like laughter. Dalton took a cautious step forward. Put it down, Ethan. Please. But Ethan's gaze shifted past him toward the others. His eyes were distant, reflective, as if he were already somewhere else. 5 pulls, he murmured. Still no bullet. The next one could be the one. Ryan shouted, "Stop, man. This isn't a test anymore." Ethan looked up at him, and for the first time his calm cracked just slightly, a flicker of something deeper, darker. "Isn't it?" He turned the gun slowly, the barrel gliding toward the students. Lily whimpered. Ava covered her mouth. Dalton's heart pounded as he stepped between them. "Enough, Ethan. You're done." For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The rain outside, the breath inside, the faint creak of the floorboards. Ethan smiled again, that same unnerving calmness returning like a mask slipping back into place. "Maybe," he said softly, "but the game isn't." And then, click, he pulled the trigger again. The chamber was still empty, but this time no one breathed. The sound, that tiny, harmless click, was louder than thunder. It was the sound of control, of chaos restrained by one man's hand. Mr. Dalton stared at Ethan, realizing too late that the boy wasn't just playing with danger. He was danger, personified, calm, methodical, and untouchable. The revolver lowered once more. Ethan looked at the terrified faces around him and whispered, "Now you understand. Danger isn't the bullet. It's the waiting." And as the storm raged outside, the class finally understood that they were no longer participating in a school project. The storm outside had turned violent, wind slamming against the old hall like a warning no one could hear. Inside, the flickering lights cast long shadows across the warped wooden floor. Every student's face was pale, eyes wide, breath shallow. Ethan stood at the center of it all, the revolver cradled in his hand like it belonged there. His expression hadn't changed, still calm, still detached. But in that calmness, there was madness. Mr. Dalton was the only one moving now, trying to reason with him. His voice trembled, but he forced it steady. "Ethan, you've made your point. They're terrified. You've proven what fear does. Now stop before someone gets hurt." Ethan tilted his head, his eyes reflecting the dim light like glass. "You think I've proven it?" "You have." Dalton snapped. "This is over." Ethan smiled faintly, that same hollow, knowing smile. "No, sir. It's just beginning. Fear isn't proven by talking about it. It's proven when someone loses." Lily's sob broke the silence. "Please, Ethan, don't do this." He looked at her almost kindly. "I'm not doing anything. The game is—" He spun the revolver again. The soft click-click of the cylinder twisting made everyone flinch. Dalton took a slow step forward, palms raised. "You're scared too. I can see it. You don't have to finish this." Ethan's tone dropped to a whisper. "I'm not scared. That's why I win." He lifted the gun, not at himself this time, but at Ryan. Ryan stumbled backward, slamming into a chair. No way. You said it was voluntary." Ethan's voice was cold. "Every player volunteers, even if they lie to themselves about it. You stayed. That's your choice." "Stop," Ava screamed. "He doesn't want to play." "Then he shouldn't have come," Ethan murmured. "Rules are rules." He handed the gun to Ryan. The boy's hand shook violently as he took it, his knuckles white. "Do it," Ethan said softly. "You're the one who said danger was exciting. Show us." Ryan's chest heaved. I can't." Ethan stepped closer, eyes locked on him. "Then I'll do it for you." Ryan's voice broke into a cry. "No. I'll do it." He raised the revolver, pressing it against his temple, his eyes shut tight. Time slowed. Every breath in the room stopped. Click. Empty. Ryan gasped, dropping the gun. It clattered to the floor, the sound echoing like a scream. He fell to his knees, shaking uncontrollably, sobbing into his hands. Ava ran to him, clutching him, crying. But Ethan didn't move. He simply picked up the gun again, brushed the dust from it, and turned to the teacher. "You see," he said calmly, "he's alive. He's seen death and lived. That's the purest form of understanding." Dalton's voice cracked. "You're sick." Ethan didn't flinch. "You taught us to face danger. I'm doing exactly what you asked. You just didn't expect it to be real." A thunderclap shook the hall. The lights flickered, then went out completely. For a second, the world was pure darkness. Someone screamed. Footsteps shuffled. Something crashed. When the emergency lights flicked back on, Ethan stood in the same place, the revolver glinting red under the dim glow. "Sit down," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried command. "No one leaves until the game ends." Lily's voice trembled. "You can't keep us here." Ethan's eyes met hers, cold and motionless. "Watch me." She bolted for the door anyway, tears streaming down her face. Ethan's arm moved like lightning. A deafening bang tore through the air. The bullet hit the wooden doorframe inches from her head, splintering it. She froze. Scream caught her throat. The gun was real. The danger was real. Ethan's calm voice cut through the smoke. "Next time it won't miss." Lily stumbled backward, collapsing to the floor, sobbing. Mr. Dalton's face went white. "Ethan, my God, stop this." Ethan turned to him. "You're the teacher. You want control? Take it from me." Dalton hesitated. The revolver in Ethan's hand was steady, terrifyingly steady. "Put it down, Ethan," Dalton said, inching closer. But Ethan only smiled and handed it to him. "Here, your turn." Dalton froze, staring at the weapon. The students were silent, watching their teacher, waiting. Ethan's voice was soft, hypnotic. "You tell us to face fear, to confront risk, but you've never done it yourself. So go ahead. Pull the trigger. Show them courage." Dalton's hand trembled as he held the revolver. His heart pounded so loudly he thought it might burst. "I can't," he whispered. "Then you're just like them," Ethan said, stepping closer, his tone both pitying and proud. "All talk, no understanding." Dalton's eyes burned with tears, frustration, guilt, terror all tangled together. "Please," he whispered. "This isn't learning. This is murder." Ethan looked almost disappointed. Maybe that's the only way people really learn. Without warning, he snatched the gun back, spun the cylinder again, and pointed it toward the ceiling. Bang! The shot exploded, tearing through plaster. Dust rained down like snow. Ava screamed again, clutching Ryan. "Now it's loaded again," Ethan said. 5 chambers left. 1 bullet. Who's next? Nobody spoke. Nobody breathed. The air itself seemed to shrink, pressing against their lungs. Ethan's face softened slightly, as if the tension were beautiful to him. "You see? This is what real danger does. It makes you feel. Every second could be your last. That's what being alive truly means." Lily whispered through tears. "You're not teaching us anything. You're destroying us." Ethan's gaze met hers. "Then maybe destruction is a lesson." Mr. Dalton lunged. "Enough!" He slammed into Ethan, knocking the gun from his hand. It skidded across the floor. For a heartbeat, chaos erupted. Ryan dived for the gun. Ava screamed. Lily crawled toward the exit. But Ethan was faster. He slammed into Ryan, sending him sprawling. They struggled, fists flying, the gun clattering between them. Dalton tried to pull Ethan back, but the boy twisted like a wild animal. A shot went off. Bang! Screams. Smoke. Silence. Everyone froze. Ryan was on the ground, motionless, eyes wide, blood spreading across his shirt. Ava shrieked, collapsing beside him. "No!" "Ryan!" Mr. Dalton stared, horror-stricken, his mouth open, words dying before they could form. Ethan stood still, chest heaving, gun still in his grip. His face was unreadable, not triumphant, not regretful, just empty. He looked down at Ryan, then back at the others. "Now!" he said quietly. "The lesson is complete." Lily screamed. "You killed him." Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "No, the game did." The thunder outside drowned out her sobs. Ethan turned toward the door, the revolver hanging loosely at his side. "The rest of you can go," he said. "You've seen enough." But no one moved. They were too shocked, too broken. Mr. Dalton finally stepped forward, voice trembling with fury. "You're going to prison for this." Ethan looked at him and smiled faintly. "Maybe, but at least they'll remember me." And then, before anyone could stop him, he placed a revolver beneath his chin. A click. Empty. No bullet. He laughed softly, a hollow, chilling sound, and whispered, "Guess I win again." He dropped the gun and walked out into the storm, leaving the others behind, crying, shaking, trapped in the echo of what they had just witnessed. The lightning flashed through the shattered window, illuminating the classroom one last time. On the table, the revolver still spun slowly, the metal gleaming. The news broke before dawn. Student killed in classroom, project gone wrong. The headline screamed. The words felt unreal. Just fragments of ink on paper, detached from the blood that had stained the floor of the old drama hall hours earlier. By morning, St. Helena Academy was a graveyard of whispers. Police tapes sealed off the building, blue and yellow ribbons fluttering in the wind like warnings to anyone still curious. Reporters crowded the gates, cameras flashing, microphones raised. The story had already spread beyond the town. National news, viral headlines, endless speculation. Mr. Dalton sat in the back of a police car, head in his hands. He hadn't slept, hadn't spoken since giving his statement. His words had sounded hollow, even to himself. It was supposed to be a project. He brought a real gun. I tried to stop him. But deep down, he knew the truth. He had started it, not with intent, but with a careless idea. Show a dangerous game. He hadn't realized how literally someone like Ethan would take it. Inside the hall, forensics officers moved quietly under the dim light, collecting evidence: a shattered bullet, a blood-stained floorboard, a single revolver resting on a desk like an unspoken question. One, survivors. Lily hadn't stopped shaking. She sat wrapped in a blanket in the nurse's office, eyes fixed on nothing. Every blink brought flashes of the moment. The gun, the scream, Ryan's body falling. Her parents had come, crying, but she barely reacted. Their words felt distant, muffled by the ringing in her ears. All she could hear was that final click. Ethan's laugh afterward, soft and empty. Ava sat beside her, face pale, mascara streaked down her cheeks. She hadn't spoken either, just stared at her trembling hands. When she finally whispered, her voice cracked like glass. "He could have killed all of us." Lily turned toward her slowly. "He didn't need to. He already did." "What do you mean?" Ava asked weakly. Lily's eyes were hollow. "He killed who we were." A silence heavier than grief hung between them. To the investigation. The police called it manslaughter, but that word felt too small for what had happened. Ryan's death was labeled an accident caused by recklessness. Ethan was nowhere to be found. He had disappeared into the storm that night. No trace, no sightings, not even footprints in the mud outside. Some said he drowned in the river that cut through the woods behind the school. Others claimed he fled the city. But those who had seen his eyes at night, the calm, unblinking certainty, weren't so sure he had run at all. Rumors began to spread online. Someone had posted a blurred photo from the scene before the police arrived. The revolver on the floor, the broken light swinging overhead, and scrawled in red across the blackboard, "The game isn't over." No one knew if Ethan had written it or if it was just a sick fabrication by someone chasing attention. But it spread fast through forums, chat rooms, news feeds. Soon, strangers began creating videos, theories, recreations. Hashtags trended. Hashtag the dangerous game. Hashtag Russian Roulette challenge. It wasn't just a tragedy anymore. It had become entertainment. Mr. Dalton watched helplessly as his lesson, meant to make students think, became a digital horror story consumed by millions. Each click, each share, each new theory made him feel more like an accomplice. 3. The video. A week later, Lily received an anonymous message. No name, no subject line, just a link. Her hands trembled as she clicked it. The screen flickered to life. Grainy footage, the unmistakable setting of the drama hall. The camera had been recording the entire time. She watched herself sitting there, frozen in fear. Ryan laughing nervously. Ava pleading. Mr. Dalton shouting. Then Ethan. He stood in the center, staring into the camera, calm and composed. When he spoke, his voice was soft but carried like a whisper in her ear. "If you're watching this, then the lesson isn't over." Her stomach twisted. "We all play games with our lives," Ethan continued. "Some people pretend they're safe. Others look away. But danger doesn't disappear just because you stop seeing it. It waits. It watches. He smiled. That same cold, haunting smile she remembered. So ask yourself, when will you play? The screen cut to black. Lily sat there shaking. She wanted to delete the video, but couldn't move. Her reflection in the dark monitor looked wrong. Pale, hollow-eyed, haunted. She realized then that the real danger wasn't Ethan anymore. It was the idea he had planted. For the teacher's fall. Mr. Dalton resigned before the investigation was even finished. The school board called it negligence. The media called it moral failure. He called it justice. He stopped sleeping, stopped leaving his apartment. Every night, he replayed the last moments, his voice shouting, Ethan's calm whisper, the gunshot. He kept hearing Ethan's final words. You started it. One evening, while scrolling through the news, he found another story, a small headline buried deep online. Teen hospitalized after copying dangerous game video. His heart sank. He opened it. A group of students had found Ethan's footage online and recreated it for social media. One of them had pulled the trigger. Empty chamber. Lucky. The teacher threw his laptop across the room. It shattered. But it didn't stop the sound in his head. That metallic click. Again and again, endless. 5, the return. Months passed. The school reopened. The old drama hall remained locked, boarded up, its windows dark. But rumors spread among the new students. Late at night, people said they could hear something from inside, the soft click of a revolver spinning, echoing faintly through the halls. Lily didn't believe it. Not until the night she went back. She hadn't meant to. She just needed to see it one last time. To end it. Rain poured again, just like that night. The halls were empty, silent except for her footsteps. When she reached the old door, it was unlocked. Inside, everything was the same. The table, the broken light, even the chalkboard, untouched. She stepped closer, her flashlight trembling. There, written faintly in chalk, were the words, Your turn. Her breath hitched. She stepped back, her heart pounding. Behind her, something clicked. She turned, but there was no one there. Just a sound, soft and unmistakable, a cylinder spinning. The flashlight flickered. And then darkness. 6, the endless game. By morning, Lily was gone. The police found her car parked by the gate, engine off, door open. Inside the drama hall, they found only one thing on the table, a revolver, 5 empty chambers, 1 bullet, and carved into the wood beneath it. The game never ends. Epilogue. Years later, St. Helena Academy closed for good. The building was condemned, its halls left to rot. But sometimes, people who pass by at night swear they see a dim light glowing through the boarded windows. They say if you listen closely, you can hear a voice whispering from inside, calm, steady, patient. Spin the chamber. Feel alive. Your turn. And though no one dares to go in, everyone who hears it feels the same chill crawl down their spine, the haunting realization that Ethan's lesson didn't die that night. Because the most dangerous game was never Russian roulette. It was curiosity, the need to see how far we go before we break. And somewhere in the silence between heartbeats, the game still waits for someone new to play.